So, welcome to the Adult Chair podcast, Dr. Margot McKinnon.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
I am thrilled to have you on. I was just sharing with you that I had heard you one night in the middle of the night when I was wide awake. And I listened and you popped up on YouTube and I thought, oh, I literally got out of bed that morning and I went straight to my computer. I bought your book immediately, and I wanted to buy like 5 copies, no joke. And I emailed you directly and I said, please, will you be on my show? Which I never do. I said, I normally find people that I like, or people email in and I send it to my girls and then they will email and then they'll email and invite. But I was like, I must have you on as soon as possible. So
Love it. Thank you.
I was like, I love her. So thank you for being on. Um, so why don't we, I know we're going to talk about so many different things today. Specifically, we're going to hit the dominance theory, right? Um, Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got to be where you are today. 'Cause you have a very interesting life story.
Well, thank you for thinking it's interesting.
It is interesting.
And first of all, thank you for having the courage, Michelle, to come on here, create a platform, because we need these platforms to develop a community.
Mhm.
So that there's
Yeah.
this really, I think you and I are on the same page of creating a safe space for people to ponder the mysteries of life, ponder the mysteries of like the bigger world, but also the things that happen to them in their life. And I
Mhm.
really cherish that you do that. That's why I popped on and said, sure, I'll be on your podcast so that we can have a really fun conversation today. My story is that I was one of those little kids, that could see spirits, and I had visions into the future. I could hear voices. I would wake up in the night and see people around my bed. I didn't
Mhm.
always know who they were. Like I was just a little kid. And I have also this very powerful, commanding, but compassionate voice
Mhm.
that speaks to me, not all day long, but
Mhm.
if I ask a question, it'll come down and give me an answer.
Mhm.
And it sounds male to me, but I know that it's an energy. So if you hear me saying he, I really don't know if it's he, she, it, don't know. But
Mhm.
if you hear me saying he, it's that. I've also come to realize, or at least say to myself, I think it's actually God talking to me. It's that big universal force.
Mhm.
And I'm using the word God. Sometimes you'll hear me say universe, creator, oneness, source. I'll use all of them. But for some reason, in the last few weeks, I've been back to the word God. So I'm using this word God. And I think God comes down and talk to me. And I think, why do I think it's God? Because this powerful voice comes down because it wants everybody to have the most beautiful, beautiful human experience. And it comes down and shares with me how we can do that. And that's why I think it's God, because this compassionate but commanding voice is all about all of us as a universal.
Mhm.
Now, the first time I ever heard that voice, though, was when I was 4 years old, and my family was all in the basement watching television, and I was like a little mom from the time I was a little kid. I just loved my dolls.
Mhm.
And I went upstairs and I had a little doll. My favorite was, I shouldn't say favorite, but he was. My favorite doll was named Michael. And I came up and I had a little crib. It was just a miniature. It looked like a real baby's crib, only it was a miniature. And I was putting my doll in there and I was pulling up his covers and I heard, and it was pure darkness. And I heard, you are to be a teacher. So was that, do you see here? It was this very deep voice. That's why I say he, but I
Uh-huh.
really don't know. So don't hold me to that. Okay. I just hear what I hear. So this voice comes in over time. And as a child, I had visions into the future, which I
Mhm.
didn't know they were visions.
Mhm.
until, later on in my life when they came into being. But I have to say, for some of you who are parents out there, it's really, I had parents who were very supportive of my spiritual insights and my spiritual experiences. And they were very, very, they treated it, I guess, as a normal, natural part of who I am as a person,
Mhm.
never made me feel badly about it. In fact, my mom was so great that she used to come into my room at night and say, do they go in your cupboard? Look under your bed. Do they get behind your curtain? And so she'd do a ghost sweep
Uh-huh.
out before I went to bed at night. And I'd get into my bed and I'd say, but they come when everybody's sleeping. But anyway, so that's how I started out in my life. And I guess my biggest question, I'm going to share my biggest questions because I bet many of you have the same questions.
Mhm.
Why do I have this?
Mhm.
Why? And you know what my biggest question is? What am I supposed to do with it? Why was I given it? And am I kind of living up to what God wants me to do?
Mhm.
Um, I believe that we have a life review. I believe we go over it back into unconditional love. And when I go over there and I meet God, I want God to say thank you. It makes me cry a little bit, everybody, because it's just how I live my life.
Mhm.
I want God to say, thank you, Margot. You've done everything I asked.
Oh, wow.
And so I listen. So Michelle asked me, can you be on? And I just heard this, yes, say yes to her, get on that show. And I just immediately, boom, okay. So I really listened to that voice. I became a high school English teacher for 25 years, but then I came up with this and I went off to the University of Oxford to do my PhD. That's
Mhm.
why I'm doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a PhD doctor.
Mhm.
I did my PhD in, if we were going to bring the concept of spirituality into our public education system, how
Mhm.
would we do it? Because we had a religion model where children would learn through a religion's perspective. Well, in our school system, and I think it's the same in the US, is that's been removed. And I'm saying we never replaced it with something else to help
Mhm.
children
Mhm.
understand where do I go after I die? Who
Mhm.
am I? Do I have a meaning and purpose? Is there a spiritual dimension beyond the physical? In our system, we don't have a space for them to contemplate and to ponder those big essential questions of life.
Mhm. Yeah.
I always say, you know, I never needed math really, like past about grade 3 or 4. I just needed to know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and get percentage so I could get their report cards. But nobody was ever going to ask Margot McKinnon to build a bridge across a river.
Mhm.
No, I didn't need math of that high level, but we all die.
Mhm.
That is a given. That is something universal. So how do we ponder that? How do we get comfortable with that? How do we create meaning in our lives? And I wanted to say, just to hook back in so that Michelle and I can have this conversation, is I love the title of Michelle's podcast, The Adult Chair. Many years ago, I heard this quote and it said, people say we are all a child of God.
Mhm.
And this person said, well, I want to be an adult of God. And that's why I like the title of your podcast,
Thank
Michelle. So
you.
that's sort of the arc in my simplest form.
Thank you. Love it. I relate so much to you. I had similar hearing voices when I was a little girl, not understanding what they were, but like you, even though I was raised Catholic, going to Catholic school, my parents never said I was crazy or shunned me. Like they were very open to everything. Thank goodness, because I was accepted for who I was. So, tell us about, I know you've had, is it one or two near-death experiences?
Well, I call myself as having two,
Yeah.
but some people like to dissect what a near-death experience is. I've had so many spiritual experiences. For me, it's just it's just another one,
Yeah.
another spiritual experience. But did you want me to tell you about
Yeah,
them?
please.
Okay, so the first one, I was 18 years old, and I was just new at university. It was like about October or something. And I came down with strep throat, that my throat was just swollen, like I couldn't swallow, and my temperature was so high.
Mm.
And in my dormitory at university, there was this little infirmary in the basement of the building. So they, with a hospital bed in it. I don't know why they had it. I guess they had it for people like me. So anyway, they put me down there. And they said, we can't send you home until your temperature's down. So they had a student nurse was coming in and checking my blood pressure, my temperature, and all this. So anyway, it was about Thursday, and she came in and she said, oh, I've been wanting to go out with this guy for, so long. And he finally asked me out for this Friday, but I can't go because I need to look after you. So I said, oh, go on your date. Don't worry about me. And there was a phone next to my bed. And she said, okay. And like, she didn't even second thought. She didn't even say, oh, no, no, it's okay. Right. Okay. So she was going on this date. And so anyway, she said, I'm going to call you at 9 o'clock. And I said, oh, all right. Well, I can't go anywhere. I can't even move. So I'm lying down in my bed and I had a dream.
Mhm. And for those
And
of you not watching, she's doing air quotes.
I had
Dream.
a dream,
Yeah.
a dream where my spirit came out and it was heading towards the most beautiful orange light.
Wow.
It was beautiful. Like I was just like, whoo, this is so good, right? And I just felt light and so much energy and everything. And then I thought, oh no, I need to say goodbye to my roommate. So I was on the ceiling and I was going up because I was in the basement and our room was on the fourth floor. And I was coming out of the basement on the ceiling and I was actually going up through this way. And as I got to the front lobby, I saw all the girls dressed in these ball gowns. And we had a military college that was in the same city. So the girls were all lined up waiting for their taxis to go out to this ball. They were all paired up with a military guy to go to this ball. So anyway, so I'm on the ceiling and I saw this girl. She looked up at me and saw me on the ceiling.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I did a somersault on the like in the air. And I said, "Woo, you've just seen your first ghost." And so then I zipped up and I went into my room and my roommate wasn't there. And I said, oh, too bad. I've got to go. Zoom like this. And then my spirit came boom back into my body because the nurse was standing there, or she came in and she said, oh my God, I tried calling you. I'm making the number up now because it was so long ago. I was 18. I'm going to say like 30 times.
Wow.
Uh, and she came in, she said, you didn't pick up and I thought you were dead. And I said, I think I was dead.
Wow.
Were the girls going somewhere tonight?
Hmm.
And she said, yes, they were going to the military college for a ball. And I said, I saw them.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, I saw them. She said, you couldn't possibly have seen them. You can't even get out of bed. And I said, I saw them. I said, I saw a
Mm.
girl. And I was trying to find that girl, but I never did. But that story came in handy in my teaching career, which
Mhm.
another day we can talk about that. But we
Mhm.
only have an hour and you have to kind of get the stories in for your audience, right?
Yes.
But that story made sense to me about 30 years later.
Mm.
The second one, I was doing an Indigenous ceremony because I live out in the part of the country where we have a lot of Indigenous people who do traditional ceremony. And
Mhm.
we don't have, like, I can't say we, I don't have, because I don't go to church or anything.
Mhm.
I didn't have any kind of space to
Mhm.
explore why my spirit could come out, how I could have visions and all of this.
Mm.
And so I was a part of this Indigenous ceremony, and it was a fasting ceremony for 4 days. And we're not supposed to talk about their ceremonies. I can talk about my experience
Mhm.
of what happened to me, but I can't talk about other people's experiences, right? But it was a fasting. So there was no drugs involved or anything. And quite actually the opposite. We had no food, no water, 4 days,
Mhm.
hot sun. It's like 100 degrees. So
Wow.
anyway, it
Wow.
was the third day of this ceremony. And I could just feel everything just started to whirl like this.
Hmm.
Then, poof, I was heading out into the most beautiful unconditional love. It was the white light of unconditional love. I had
Mm.
to open my eyes so big. I was like this, my eyes so big to see it. And I,
Mm.
in my experience, I said, well, open your mouth wider, it'll get your eyes bigger.
Ah.
I don't know why I thought my pupils would get bigger, right? But anyway, I could see more. But it was like this unconditional love was fused into my body, and it was filling me right up, right to my toes. And I was going up, up, up like this. And it was just so euphoric. And I was just so, and then my mom had just passed over to the other side and she came down. My mom
Wow.
has a smile like this, like big white teeth like this. And she was smiling at me and she said, oh, you can't come up any farther than this. But I could see other spirits going up. You know, when you see rain coming down like this and you're watching the
Hmm.
rain, but this looked like rain going up. And they were gray and they were all going woo up there to the other side. And
Wow.
then my mom said, you can't come any farther than this. And it was the most beautiful white light of unconditional love I've ever experienced in my life. It was so magnificent, filled me all up. And then I came, boom, just like the first one, back into my body.
Mm.
And when I came to, I looked at my hands. I didn't know they were hands. I didn't know where I was. And you know what? I didn't know who I was.
Mm.
And until that voice, I think God said, you are Margot McKinnon, the teacher. So it's that teacher sense of purpose of why I was put here that always
Hmm.
brings my spirit back into my body.
Hmm.
And so I came to, but it had a profound impact on the rest of my life, even though it was short,
Hmm.
because I thought, wow, it's so beautiful, unconditional love over there. Why are people fighting and harsh and abrasive down here?
Hmm.
And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try and recreate that vibration of unconditional love wherever I go.
Wow.
In my home, raising my children, that patient, kind
Hmm.
experience of unconditional love. In my classroom, I said, this is going to be a space where my students can feel welcomed and loved and where they have a kind, patient teacher, which I have by nature, and I'm a cheerful person by nature,
Hmm.
but it was more intentional. I see what I'm doing now. I am connecting with you, God, and I will be you in the classroom of unconditional love.
Ooh, beautiful. Wow. I remember, I want to say when you shared something, maybe on another show that I heard around how you raised your kids or your son. You didn't you have a son that was a little difficult? Can you share a little bit about that? Like, and I love hearing this, Margot. It's so beautiful that you brought the unconditional love that you experienced from God, source, universe, whatever we're calling it. And you wanted to, your intention was to bring it down into the classroom and with your own children. Gorgeous, like so beautiful. And yeah, and then we get down here and we all forget why we're here. We all don't remember and we're arguing and we're mad and we're holding grudges and all these things until we cross back over there and it's like, "Oh wait, silly me," right? How
You,
did you go ahead, sorry.
you know what it reminds me of? You know, when you have to sell your house and you go around and you say, oh, let's paint this room, let's declutter over here. And you go, why didn't we have our house like this while we lived here? So it's the same thing.
Yes.
Why are we not bringing all this unconditional love and kindness now? Why are we waiting till we go over to the other side?
Why are we? What do you think that's all about?
Well, okay, a couple of weeks ago, because you know how I said I've just gone back to this word God. I kind of call it the God zone now. I bring
Uh-huh.
myself up into the God zone.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Okay.
I came in and I had to deal with a difficult, challenging person. Well,
Mhm.
actually, two people. And I came in and I hung my purse up, and I kicked my shoes off at the door and put them in the cupboard. And I came in and I said, I'm getting really tired of dealing with challenging, difficult people. And I heard God say, me too. I have the same problem, only on a bigger scale. And I thought, if God can't get rid of wars and famine and poverty and, what can I do? But I think we can. There are steps we
Yeah.
can take. And that's what we're talking about today. What
Yeah.
steps can we take to be a part of the change that we're looking for in this world?
Yes, please.
So you asked about my son, and it wasn't anything really bad, but teenagers, when they're a bit experimental and dare I say a little bit moody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so he was in one of those, and I love him so much. Like, he's turned into a magnificent man, magnificent. He's 36 now. And even he was visiting his grandfather. My dad had to call me and just say, oh, Margot, he is like the most spectacular man. Yes, he is. He's so kind, so generous, so loving. And I think a lot has to do with this story I'm going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So he was being a little challenging and difficult as a teenager. And I thought, and one incident was, I don't know if that anyone's ever had a child who's decided to experiment with alcohol and they come home. Anyway, so he had done this a few days in a row. And I was actually terrified
Mm-hmm.
because I'm quite a self-disciplined person. And and I didn't understand what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I thought I could punish him.
Mm-hmm.
I grounded him. I could punish him and make his life miserable. And then God said, no, Margot, his life is already miserable for him. Do
Mm.
not make his life more miserable.
Mm.
What you want to do, you want to ground him, but think about it. Ground his spirit back into his body.
Ooh, that's good.
Right? It's not grounding as in punishing. It's grounding as in ground his spirit, ground who he is, ground the life he wants to live back into his body. That's your job as his mother.
Wow, that's good.
So I sat with him when he came to, like, you can't talk to somebody when they're, anyway, so he came to, and I said, I think your life isn't how you want it to be. I think the life your spirit wants to live. Now, you don't have to use spirit with your child if they don't get that word. You can say, I think your life is not the magnificent life that you want to live. Because I talk about creating the life your spirit wants to live. I think your life is not the way you want it to be. If your life were exactly how you want it to be, what would that look like? Well, he knew immediately. He said, well, I live up north where there are a lot of trees.
Mm.
Okay. And I'm writing it all down. Okay. He said, I kayak. He was 17 at the time, by the way. I kayak. Okay. I work up north. I drive a pickup truck. I have clients up there, and I'm building a log home, and I have horses in the back. I live in Western Canada where people have horses. Anyway, and we're right in the foothills of the mountains, lots of trees. So anyway, I said, okay, tell me what these trees look like. Are they like coniferous? He said, they're big, big pine trees. Oh, okay, that sounds like northern British Columbia. So he said, okay. So I told my friend who lived up north in northern BC, and he said, well, it sounds like he wants my job. He said, I'm going to get him a job as an archaeologist's assistant for the summer, and he's going to come up and work for me. So he was driving around in a pickup truck in all these trees, and my friend was building a log house, and he had horses in the back. And this really grounded him. He's just moving back to Alberta. He was on the other side of the country, but he had a house he had 3 acres, all big trees around it, a little
Mm.
log cabin in the middle. And so what he's learned is, how do you create the life your spirit wants to live? Imagine your spirit is working at a job and it's crushing your spirit, which
Mhm.
we need to get into this at
We
some point so people know
100%.
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But some people are in marriages or relationships that are just grinding their spirit down. And I
Mhm.
have learned in my life, I need to talk to my spirit. And this is how I talk to her. Margot, my love, my
Oh,
sweetheart, my darling, what would you like to do today?
I love
How
that.
do you want to live? How do you want your home decorated? Which way do you want your bed to face? Are the sheets nice? I talk to her like that. Margot, my sweetheart, because sometimes she doesn't want to go out in the world. She'd rather just stay home.
I love that.
Margot, we have to go. Just be on your best behavior.
Love that. So that really turned your son around.
It really did. And you know what he uses? So what we did was I said, okay, like we really need to get into this so I
We
can
do.
explain
We got to
this.
get into the book. Yeah.
But I said to him, okay, um, alcohol is going to destroy your life. And out here in Alberta, our Indigenous Blackfoot people say the reason why alcohol is called spirits, like wine and spirits, is because it makes you feel that lightheaded feeling of being in spirit.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And that's why people drink alcohol, because their spirit is just so lonely in this human experience.
Mm,
So I said to my
mm.
son, like, first of all, I said, my number one job as your mother is to help you create the life your spirit wants to live.
Yes,
I
amen.
told that to my
Mm,
students, high school students. My number one job is your teacher. Yes, I taught English literature, but English literature isn't just about plot graphs and
mhm,
how the character deals with this and that, and learning what alliteration and all that. It's
mhm,
about the big questions of life. That's what people write about. That's what good
mhm,
literature is. It
mhm.
poses the big questions and then the authors take characters through. That's what we're talking about. So I said but I knew with my students that I was doing more than teaching them that. I was teaching them about how to live their own human experience. How
Mhm.
are they going to create the life? That was my number one job as their teacher,
Mm,
was to help them do that. So we can come back to with parenting my son once we get into this,
yeah,
make
yeah,
more
for sure.
sense.
I do want to get back to that because I think it's so important as parents that we recognize that these souls that are coming through us, I don't care if they're adopted or not, or they came through us, but they're being raised in our household. They have these incredible missions. And we need to take a step back and allow these kids to bloom into whomever it is that they're here to become, because we don't know. And we put these very tight guardrails on them and think, oh, their life is going to be this. And if they can get straight A's and if they can play this sport or dance or whatever the heck it is, then they're going to be okay. And I realize, and I did a lot of that as a parent as well. Thank God I woke up when they were older around that. But it's so narrow. And I realize it's unconscious, right? It's very unconscious thinking. It's like, this is what all my friends were doing. This is how my parents raised me. Didn't know any other way. But gosh, there is a new way. And that's why I was excited to have you on. So let's talk about the dominance theory. Because the what you talk about, wow. That's what I said. I gotta have her on. I want everybody to learn what this is because it is so incredibly powerful. So please share with us, what is this dominance theory?
Well, I love this because it transformed my life
Yeah.
and my children's lives and my students in the classroom. Once they learned how to use this model, they just rose not just to the top of their class, but their marks. I could look at, we have provincial exams,
Mm-hmm.
and where I don't mark them or anything. And they were outperforming like on the provincial exams, their writing and reading tests,
Wow.
because of the confidence that they were getting from this moment.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
like I think we were 15% above provincial average, and I worked in a challenging school. I
Wow.
prefer challenging schools. I'm not, I love the
Mhm.
kids who are already performing, but I like the kids. I get more joy out of working with the kids who come from challenging circumstances
Yeah.
and getting their feet on the ground and get them, that grounding word is just such a powerful one if we start
But
rethinking what that means.
I love your reframe of that word. It's not a punishment. It's like, let's ground them into who they really
Yes,
are.
correct.
Oh, I
And I
love
would
this.
I ground my kids for 2 weeks because it takes 2 weeks for them, for their spirit and all of these. So let's get on this,
Yeah, let's
Michelle.
go.
Then
Okay.
it helps me explain it better.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, to just start this off, I came up with this about 20 years ago, actually.
Mhm.
Um, and my school wanted me to become a high school principal, so they wanted me to be get my master's degree.
Mhm.
Now, you have to realize, everybody, I was a single mom, 3 kids. I
Mhm.
got divorced early in my life when my kids were 3, 5, and 7.
Mm.
Mind you, I co-parented, so I did have time where I could work on a master's degree. But
Mhm.
I have to say, I didn't have money.
Mhm.
And in fact, I knew I didn't have any money because Halloween came and my son said, Mom, I want to dress, and this isn't really politically correct, but he said, I want to be one of those hobos from the 1920s that hopped the trains and went
Uh-huh.
across with a little pole. He said, I want to be that. So can I borrow your coat?
Oh,
I didn't know my coat was that shabby, but anyway, that's where I'm coming from.
yeah.
Um, so I have had my own struggles in life.
Mhm.
So anyway, the principal said, can you get your master's degree? And here I am, single mom, looking after my house, 3 kids, the whole works, right? And I was one of those moms that I make everything from scratch for
Mhm.
cooking. I go to every one of their games, very involved mom.
Mhm.
So anyway, I said, of course, yes, just like I said to your podcast. Okay, yeah, like I'll do that. And so I took 10 courses, and I took the last one was just for myself. And my thesis was actually on teacher professional learning
Mhm.
and how principals can create organizational culture to make that happen, which is basically what I'm doing now with spirituality. But anyway, so I took one course that was called Philosophy of Mind, and our first homework assignment was, how are the body, mind, spirit related? I thought, oh yeah, great. I'll just go and ask the voice / God,
Mhm.
universe creator. I'll ask for the answer. I thought, excellent, great homework assignment. So I came home and I have a system, like I clear out everything. I lit my candle. I like those yellow
Mhm.
pads of paper.
Oh,
My pen out, love them.
no.
Yes,
Okay. Do you see my
yes, yellow pad of
yellow
paper.
pads, and I always have a candle wherever I am.
Yes, there you go. See, you're
Oh,
already on
and I
it,
usually have
Michelle.
incense going too, but I didn't want the smoke on video.
So I got my yellow pad of
Love that.
paper out, and I really was not expecting what I got. I said, so how are the body, mind, spirit related? Well, that voice has come in as a voice.
Mhm.
This time it came in and it was this figure in my living room. And it's almost as if the ceiling of my house grew bigger to accommodate, like it was massive. And it said, we have 5 dimensions. You have 5 dimensions of self, not just 3.
Wow.
You have a body, I'll put it this way, a body, a mind. These are all dimensions of yourself, okay?
Mhm.
You have a
Mhm.
body dimension, a mind dimension. You have a spirit. You have a soul. And right then I go, spirit and soul, I thought they were the same thing. No, they're 2 different dimensions of yourself. Okay. And you have oneness. It said oneness, but in drawing my little pie chart, it didn't look good, oneness. It spilled over here. Anyway, so I put 1.
Mhm.
You have 5 dimensions of self. So what are the difference? So we know our physical. Here's mine. There's yours. You all have yours. But it's also your physical, the house you live in, the car you drive, anything material.
Mhm.
Your mind is your logical, rational self. It's your system self. It's the one that does your grocery list. It pays your taxes.
Mhm.
It does all those things. Your spirit, because our spirit came from absolute unconditional love, that place I went back to in my near-death experience.
Mhm.
It came from unconditional love. Your spirit came into your body of unconditional love. Your spirit remembers that unconditional love.
Mm.
You know what? It longs for that unconditional love.
Mm.
And it's also your real self, who
Like
you
your
really are.
your true pure essence of self. That's the
Yes.
self we're born with, right? Like, yeah,
Yes.
before the ego comes in, false self and all that. Yep, got it.
Yes. Your soul is your purpose. Why did your spirit come in? And also at this point in time in history.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your purpose over here.
Mm-hmm.
Oneness is your connection to God, universe, creator, source.
Mm-hmm.
It is your sense of connection and belonging.
Mm.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
then it said you're born dominant in one of these dimensions and you grow the other ones over time. So body dominant people, their spirit came in and they love this place, hair, makeup, nails, fashion, shopping, decorating, making beautiful dinner parties. Now, I'm not a body dominant person. And in fact, in my book, I have a little scale you can take.
Mm-hmm.
In my olden days, I put my body dimension at about a 1
Mm-hmm.
because I thought all that stuff was a big waste of time. And now I figured out do you think that?
I literally am like, oh my God, I have to go get my nails done. Damn it. Like, I don't want to have to go get my nails.
Well, I had
I'm like,
yeah, yeah, like one day, my friend called me and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to live like a body dominant right now. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm exhausted. I've just cleaned my whole house. I've shone up some of my pieces over here. I'm ironing
oh no,
napkins, like linen napkins." I
no.
said, "I think I'm going to have to give it up. It's really time consuming." So if you go to a body dominant person's house for dinner and you see the beautiful
Yeah.
candles and the beautiful preparation, hey, that was a lot of work for
Yes.
them.
No
And
joke.
really be grateful. They've shown their love
Mm.
to you. They've shown their love to you and be so appreciative.
I'm
You know,
grateful that just my brain doesn't do that well.
yeah, well, I had to learn. I think I've now graduated to a 3.
Oh, great.
I
Okay.
have linen napkins. I have linen napkins and I
Okay.
have my house the way I want it. I run every day, everybody. So I run one day
Wow.
miles and the next day I do 4 miles with my 7-pound weights.
So,
So I
so
want to
what?
stay physically fit. I eat high nutrition food,
Okay.
except it's going to be 32 degrees today. So an ice cream cone might be in order.
Well,
But
that's Celsius for everybody.
oh yeah, Celsius.
32 is freezing in
Oh yeah,
Fahrenheit.
that's freezing. Yeah, sorry, we're on Celsius. It means really, really hot.
Okay,
Um,
so I like that you're saying this. So I am a little bit body. I only eat really clean foods. I do enjoy a little yoga, working out, all that kind of thing. Okay, so maybe I'm going to the extreme of zero. So got it.
oh
Okay.
yeah. So, and I used to think like I had a pedicure 2 weeks ago. I never do that.
Yeah.
And now I think I need that like at least once a month. That was really wonderful.
Yeah.
But anyway, so your body, so don't think it's all frou-frou, waste of time, all of that. Take
Okay.
some time to do your hair and create a beautiful space to live in. It's actually fun. Have friends in.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
Number two.
mind dominant, logical, rational
Mhm.
systems.
Yeah.
Um, I have high mind, but I do not want to work in a mind dominant organization
Mm.
because it just crushes my spirit. Because sometimes mind dominant people can be very serious, and when they're stressed out they can micromanage and
Mm.
reinforce. I was giving a lot of stress and burnout online sessions to nurses all across the country during COVID,
Hmm.
and I was saying, well, mind dominant people, when they're stressed, They will micromanage and create more systems, and then
Mm.
call people idiots, and lose their trust that people are doing their job and all that. So this nurse piped in. She said, I am a mind dominant nurse manager, and I realize now I am burning out my staff because when I'm anxious, I make more checklists for them to fill in, and then they're complaining they can't actually do their jobs, which is attend to patients, because they're sitting there filling out all my micromanaging forms. Now, of
Wow.
course, we need systems to live in,
Mm-hmm.
but just recognize, if you're a mind dominant person, if you're finding yourself calling everybody out while you're driving an idiot, rein that in.
Yeah.
If you have that compulsion to micromanage, rein that in. That's what's so great about this model, right?
Love that.
So spirit dominant people, they value unconditional love, peacefulness. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for an experience. Why are you
Mm-hmm.
micromanaging me right now?
Mm-hmm.
And so spirit dominant, when they're stressed and they can find this world to be unnecessarily, when I point over here, everybody, I have a big bank of windows that face out onto the city skyline.
Oh, pretty.
Out here, it's a beautiful view. But I also live in an oil and gas town, so I know they're all sitting in their little cubies over here working away while we get to have this beautiful conversation. But so I look over there and I'm watching them all work. If you see me, look over there, because I live in a very mind dominant city.
Okay.
Um, but so mind dominant. And so just rein yourself in, and spirit dominant value unconditional love and peacefulness. They tend to be
Mm.
our poets, our artists, our, you know, that.
Counselors,
Yes, and they can
coaches.
feel, yes, and they can feel like this world is unnecessarily harsh and abrasive. And
Yep.
sometimes they just want to go home now. It's like,
That's how yep.
they are here, we're at a party that they never wanted to go to in the first place. And they just want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm working on right now, everybody, and join, just let's get involved here, Michelle, and your whole community here. I'm trying to bring forth spirit dominant leadership,
Okay.
because spirit dominant leaders know, and God told me that that's what my next mission is, to bring
Mm.
that forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because body dominance to the extreme are killing the earth with materialism.
Mm-hmm.
Mind dominance have to the extreme. My dad is a mind dominant. He's my greatest mentor, fully balanced person. So if you're fully balanced and mind dominant, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the person who is micromanaging. But
Mm.
our organizations are so mind dominant
Mm-hmm.
that they've created structures that a lot of us just don't want to live in anymore. And we're getting
Mm.
depression and anxiety because our
Mm-hmm.
spirit is just saying, this is not the life I want to live. So I'm saying, and I'm running a kind of a research project. It's going to be my third book on spirit dominant leadership and how you do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a leader of an organization, and I'm doing it in a spirit dominant way, and I'm using it as a case study.
Mm.
And I run webinars on how to be a spirit dominant leader, because you need courage if you want to step up. How do you be a compassionate person in a leadership position? And how, if we all know we're spirits having a human experience as a leader, how do you create the most magnificent experience for everybody who's working for you and with you in the
Mm.
organization? So
Mm.
that's what it is. Soul dominance, they just want to do their soul purpose, and that's all they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can't just go and get a job. I don't know. I always say selling lipstick at the counter. If
Mm-hmm.
that's not there, and just to make money, they don't care if they make money. They have to be doing their purpose. So
That's
if
me
people
too.
want to say, well, why are you running that when you hardly have anybody in it or something like this? Well, because it's my sole purpose, and I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
help and serve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it doesn't matter to me how many people are in there or anything, right? But a mind dominant will come along and say, stop doing that because you should have this lip. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oneness dominant are people who value unconditional, or no, sorry, connection and belonging. above everything else.
Mm.
And they can get, when they're stressed, they get worried about, you know, people not feeling connected or people not belonging. And they tend to worry about problems all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so some will say to me, well, Margot, aren't you really worried about some tragedy somewhere else? And I'll say, actually, no, I stay in my lane. My lane is this. I do my soul purpose and I count on the other soul purpose people, soul dominants in that region to take care of it. I don't need to take care of everything. I just need to take care of what God asks me to do.
Mm.
So
Love it.
that's what it is. So when my son was going through his, I said to him, okay, so you're not living the life, your spirit, your identity. You aren't acting like your real self. Let's work on who are you really? I want you to have a vision for what the life is that your spirit wants to live. My job is to help you get there. Now, let's go over here. Are you eating? Like I cook
You're,
everything really
for
nicely, but are
people
you?
that aren't looking, she's pointing to the body right
Oh
now.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pointing to the body. Sorry, I forgot about that, Michelle. If you're let's look at your body dimension. Are
Mm-hmm.
you having Slurpees? You know, those big ice
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
fake
Yeah.
drinks.
Yeah.
Are you eating chips or all of those things and just like toxing up your body?
Mm-hmm.
Let's eat clean food. When I get home from work, we're going for a run along the river
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah.
You're not having any friends over. There's no television. There's no computer. We're talking.
Mm-hmm.
We are being together. We
Mm-hmm.
are reading. We are driving to the mountains on the weekends. We're gardening. We're
Because
working together. We're building something together.
so this is because your son was a body dominant.
No, he's a spirit
He's
dominant,
a
I would
spirit
say.
dominant. So why did then, as you're raising him and parenting him, or when you were quote unquote grounding him, right? Why did you shift to body dominance?
Because he was having taking alcohol, which means his spirit is off. So I
Okay,
wanted to make sure he was taking care of his body.
got it.
Then I wanted
Okay.
to say, okay, let's if you're going to be behaving like this, your schoolwork is going to go down. So let's go to your mind dimension and
Mm,
let's look at your school. Are you taking the courses that you need to live that life that you want? Let's
got
go
it.
and review your courses
Mm-hmm.
and let's go. And I'm a teacher. Let's see where you are and let's get those marks up.
Mm,
We've already know that you're with your spirit. We know what that life is, but you're also a very soul person. You need a sense of purpose and meaning.
mm-hmm.
You need something bigger in your life. And at 17, as a parent, I played the long game.
Mm,
You know, you don't have to find your purpose and meaning at 17. Let's get you being able to handle the human experience, which is very complicated, by the way, Michelle. It requires a lot of skill sets. Let's get you
yeah.
those skill sets of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's in a career that is totally sole purpose. And then he didn't have such a hard time with his connection and belonging. Was a natural born leader. Like I had to say, people want to be your friend. People listen to what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
This will come in handy in your career someday,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to be fully engaged in your body, mind, spirit, soul, and oneness. Be that mentor for other people.
Mm, I love that.
So my other son, he's 4 years younger. He lost his job during COVID. And so he said, Mom, how do I get a job when I have to go online and try and find some job using these like online
Mm-hmm.
application things? And I said, okay, we'll sit at the table. Let's start back, because this is how he always gets a job. And he got it the last time, and then he lost it during COVID. And then he had to use this 5 dimensions model once again. And I said, okay, it's COVID. Go to your body dimension. And for anybody, draw your pie chart, put
Mm-hmm.
your 5 dimensions on there,
Mm-hmm.
and then say, how am I going to improve my body dimension? Well, his hair was all like this, like you can't see it if you're listening, but it was a little bit of COVID hair. And I could think you can all imagine. And he had a COVID beard. So he said, I better shave my beard
COVID.
off and get a haircut. Good idea. A little bit of COVID, 15 pounds also. I better
Oh,
start
yeah.
working out at the gym. So DC, go to your body
Yeah.
dimension.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Then I need to go to my mind dimension and say, how do you get a job? Okay, go on LinkedIn, write a note to your contacts, get your resume all buffed up, get a nice covering, research the organizations you want to be. That's all mind stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then go over to your spirit and say, I want this job to be one that my spirit loves to go to every day.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to help me create the life my spirit wants to live. I've messed up my hair, I just noticed.
No, yeah.
And trying to show you about what his hair looked like. Oh my goodness, look at mine. Then go over here. I want this job that comes in to have a real sense of meaning and purpose. I don't want it to be a job where I just go for the money. I want to feel like I'm really involved. And he said, you know what? During COVID, I lost my sense of oneness. And he's like a very charismatic. He was the guy in high school that would be the MC for sports award night and everything because he's like super funny. But
Mm-hmm.
he said, I've lost my connection and belonging through COVID because we had to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And also because I lost my job. And anytime I went out into the world, how's the job hunt going? Well, I don't want to see them. So I'm staying. He said, so I realize now I have to get back out. I have to make more connections. I have to get belonging again. Well, he started on this and he started filling in his body dimension section and his mind dimension section. And right then in came a text. He had been out of work for 3 months. In came a text. Hey, buddy, my company needs somebody exactly like you. And I told my boss, why don't we get him then? If you
No
want
way.
somebody exactly like him. So
Wow.
he got the job. Yeah, like he texted back, sure, I'll be there 9 in the morning. He said, I better hustle and get this haircut and my and see if my clothes still fit after my COVID 15 pounds. But anyway, he got that job, but he said, I want to carry on. Even though I have a job interview by morning, I want to talk to my spirit. I want to talk to
Mm.
God, universe, creator, and say, I am ready now. I would like this job to feed my spirit. So you can really use this as a really excellent lifelong tool.
I love that. I was just going to ask you, so who would read that book? And I know everyone needs to read it, but if someone's sitting here listening going, "Well, does this apply to me?" Tell who would benefit from reading this book?
Well, naturally, I think everybody should. Um,
Because
I'll,
it'll promise them what when they're done. If I'm an adult and I'm in my 40s, 50s, 60s, however old I am.
well, the thing about us is there are grander and grander versions of us waiting to come into being.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we can get stuck where we are right now and not know how to get into our next grander version. This is my book is a little magical tool that will just start stimulating your spirit, your soul,
Mhm.
and God's listening to you. God, creator, universe, source is listening to you. So once you start making a commitment to yourself and you say, I am ready now to go to my next level,
Mhm.
this will help you.
Got
If
it.
you have children and you're worried, I put a parenting section at the end of chapters so that parents
Oh,
who
great.
say, oh, I have that child, I have this one, that's, oh, I know how to, I have some extra tools. It's a real toolkit. It's a guide. It's a toolkit in here. So if you're struggling with a family member, a child, a parent,
Mhm.
it will help you understand, oh, I know why I am the way I am now because my mother was body dominant and my dad was mind dominant and I'm a spirit dominant.
Mm.
I know how to relate to them better, how to respond to them better. I'm not going to beat myself up anymore.
Mm.
I know how to live this life better, better, better. So I have all kinds of people. I have politicians. I have heads of pediatric units in American hospitals. I have space scientists, Olympians saying, okay, Margot, I saw you on a podcast. Show me how to use this 5 dimensions so that I
Wow.
can go to my next level as an Olympian. And they're all, they're already like, you'd think they were at the top of their field being an Olympian already, but no, they want to go higher. They know there's another grander version of themselves. And they also, this one particular couple I'm thinking about, they were both Olympians. And so they wanted to make sure, because they had to travel so much, right? And in their competitions, and they wanted to make sure that their relationship stayed tight. And so they wanted an exercise that said, what is the life your spirit wants to live? What is your soul purpose? What does your spirit want to live? What's your soul purpose? How can we make sure that we stay together as a unit and we keep our connection and belonging together, even though we have to travel so much in all our competitions? So it's a really widespread, if you're struggling, to somebody where you'd think, well, gee, it sounds like you have it made in the shade. Well, they want to even go to their higher level. Does that help?
I love that. So it's about up leveling. It's taking where we are now, and if we're still alive, we're still growing, or we have an opportunity to grow, to continue to grow. I always think about, we're all traveling up to the top of this mountain, and at some point we're going to die. But if we're still on the mountain, there's still room for growth. There's still room for up leveling, of being the best version of self. So this book, is what I'm hearing you say, will help you to do just that. So you keep up leveling. Okay.
Yes,
got it.
Exactly. And I put a conversation guide at the end of each chapter. So people are using it as a book club book.
Oh, I love that too.
So they'll read one chapter and then they'll do the conversation guide together in a book club. I'm having families reading the book because they want to have a really solid family, an enduring family. So they want to read it together. And it's really funny too, because one woman wrote to me and she said, I never knew my dad was into this spirit stuff. And then he saw this book on my coffee table. He's read it twice now. And he says he's going to read it a third time. And she said, we never had these conversations before.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I love it. I can't wait till my book comes.
I know. I think it was all our holidays there, Michelle. It's gotten stuck in the mail along the way.
I'm so excited. Gosh, well, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close out the show today? Did we miss anything?
I think we covered a lot of territory today, but if I can leave any of you with something, it's take some time today and just look up at the sky and talk to God, creator, source, and say, I'm ready now. I'm ready now to go up to my next level. And I always add in there, what do you need me to do for you, God? Because with all the kind of ideas about manifesting, it's like one woman said, well, why isn't God coming down and doing this and this and this? And why do you get to hear God so strongly? And I said, because I don't ask God to do very much for me. I ask God what he wants me to do for him.
Oh my God. You're speaking my language. I love this so much. I've been saying for years, I'm ready. Show me what's next. How may I serve you? Show me God, exactly. Show me source. What's next? How may I serve? How may I show up best for you today? Oh my God, this is beautiful. All right. So how can people find you? How do they buy the book? And what do you have going on? Do you have events or individual sessions? What do you offer?
Well, I am halfway through my Spirit Dominant Leadership webinars. I call them webinars, but it's really me teaching you. So they're not canned things that you can just buy and do at any time. And the reason for that is because this is very sensitive and I can get very vulnerable people. And I want to make sure they're very well cared for. So I don't, I really want to take people through myself where they can ask questions and everything. But if I have enough people saying, Margot, can you run one? Because I probably won't run another series until October. But if I have enough people, and enough for me is like 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, I'm okay with that. I'll start one as soon as possible if I have enough people. So I run these sessions on Spirit Dominant Leadership. We talk about How do I stay in my spirit unconditional love when I have to deal with difficult, challenging, toxic people?
Oh, that's hard.
How do I find my soul purpose? What is it? So we do all of this. I
Mhm.
feel invisible in my life. I feel like a ghost in my life. How do I become a spirit dominant, but also visible? Because I don't want to be all showy, but I show you how to do that too.
Mhm.
So we have, and then our finale is I show you how to make a digital vision board because God showed me the power of our photographs, that our photographs
Mhm.
are part of our blueprint, and how you can create miracles by learning how to do use your photographs in a digital vision board. So that's our big grand finale. So if you want something, you have to just email me, Dr. Margot McKinnon at gmail.com.
Okay.
And my website is www.drmargotmckinnon.com.
Okay.
And so I have that, but I also run Ask the Universe meetups. So God tells me a question and it says, I'd like your group to think about this month.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they take that question away for a whole month and meditate on it and write down all their answers. And then we come back together and we say, what did God say to you?
Mm.
So what I'm trying to do is increase everybody's ability to connect with God, universe, creator. It's not about me. It's about you and your ability to open that part of yourself up because you have it. It's part of
Mhm.
you. So let's work on it. If you've worked on the body and you've worked on the mind, work on these 3 dimensions of spirit. So I run Ask the Universe. You'll see them on my website. I do private sessions with people, and you can just book in a private session with me. I've been asked to create my own podcast, so I'm going to try and see if I can do that.
Awesome.
But there are lots of ways, and you know what else? I just love an email from you. I answer all my emails.
Perfect.
Yep. As
Well, I'll
time.
put all put all your links in the show notes so everybody has those in case someone's driving and they
Wonderful.
can't write it down right now. But thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much for being on.
you.
Thank you for this book. Thank you for your vulnerability. It was a beautiful, beautiful conversation today. I really appreciate
Thank
you.
you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much.